All right. So last up today, we have a recent speech from Donald Trump where he's talking to an audience about his promise to build the wall and specifically his promise to make Mexico pay for the wall. Let's roll this clip.
So when you hear these lunatics back there say, Trump didn't get anything from Mexico. Well, there was no legal mechanism because I said they're going to help fund this wall, but there was no legal mechanism. How do you go to a country and say, by the way, I'm building a wall, hand us a lot of money?
So, Brad, this I thought was so interesting because he's basically mocking his audience, telling them that they're stupid, that his promises were never actually within his abilities, and that no such thing will be happening. And yet, as he predicted a couple of years ago, it seems this has lost him no fans within his base. They aren't upset by this at all. But when I saw it, I was shocked at the audacity. I mean, people like you and I always knew that he had zero capacity to make Mexico pay for the wall. We always knew that it also was a very, very dumb and bad initiative in the first place that wouldn't even truly address the root issues of undocumented immigrants coming here en masse. And so it's one of those things where it should be like a victory lap, like we told you so, and yet it's like they didn't even hear it. Nobody heard it except for us. It feels bizarre to watch this kind of thing go down.
Yeah, this was maddening because I remember at the time him saying over and over again, Mexico's going to pay for it. Trust me, or what is he always says?
I will build a great, great wall on our southern border, and I will have Mexico pay for that wall. Mark my words. We're going to make them pay for that wall. Mexico's going to pay for the wall. Mexico is going to pay for the wall. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Who is going to pay for the wall? By the way, who's going to pay for the wall? Who? I was going to leave that one out for the energy speech, but you know what? It never fails. We will build the wall. Who's going to pay for the wall? Mexico. Who's going to pay for the wall? Mexico's going to pay for the wall. They're going to pay. Remember I said it. Mexico's going to pay for the wall. And it's very easy. The other politicians come down. You can't get Mexico to pay for the wall. I said 100%.
Yeah, this was maddening because I remember at the time he would just say over and over again, Mexico's going to pay for it. You'll see, Mexico's going to pay for it. And we're going to build a big, beautiful wall with a gate in it. And Mexico's going to pay for the whole thing. And I was not ever somebody who wanted the wall. I was never super against it, other than I think that it's largely a waste of money. But I was offended on behalf of his supporters, who many of whom believed him and had genuine concerns that he was so openly lying to them by telling them Mexico was going to pay for it. There was never any way to make Mexico pay for it. And Mexico was saying, no, we're not going to pay for it. And now he's using the excuse, well, there was no legal mechanism to make them pay for it. Yeah, Donald, we know. That's why we said you shouldn't promise people that, because it would be impossible to deliver. And I feel insulted. I've never supported Trump, but I feel insulted on the behalf of his supporters because he just admitted that he lied to them, that he promised something if he had any sense to him, should have known he couldn't deliver. And then he just shrugs it off. He's like, yeah, okay. And so he did build some of the wall. He did not build the full wall that he promised, but he ended up building a little over 400 miles of border fencing, I believe, out of the 1,954 miles of U.S.-Mexico border. This is reporting from Politico. But only a small portion of the 452 miles, about 40 miles, is newly constructed wall where none previously existed. The rest is like enhanced fencing and such. So he built a little bit of the wall, did not build the whole wall. But most importantly, Mexico paid for $0 of that wall. In fact, guess who did pay? Taxpayers. Trump declared an emergency declaration to try to reappropriate money from the military, so from Homeland Security funds, from Treasury Department's forfeiture funds, from the DOD's construction accounts. He tried to use that money to build the wall. So he Like, he literally just did his best to try to get taxpayer dollars to build the wall. He openly, in office, his actions belied his promise that Mexico would pay for it. He didn't even really make any attempt. Like, I'm not saying I support them, but there were a few ideas floated around for how he could maybe try, like taxing remittances to Mexico or something. He didn't even try. I wouldn't have supported that, but like, he didn't even make that effort. He just immediately went to using our tax dollars to build it, which, if that had been the promise all along, would be, okay, well, we can discuss that. Is this a good use of tax dollars or is it not? And we can have a debate about it. But for him to just promise something, and that was a big part of his campaign, the wall, and that Mexico was going to pay for it. That was like a centerpiece. This was not some small bullet point, in the cliff notes of one policy plan. And then to just openly, immediately renege on it, and then expect the audience to just go along with you. It's a cult. Politics is a cult. I'm so done with his bullshit at this point. He has told so many lies. He shows such disrespect for his own supporters' intelligence. I'm just done, and I'm done with people on either side of the political spectrum who just have this cult-like worship of somebody and can never see when they've done wrong or never see when they've done good. I mean, I've praised Gavin Newsom twice in the last month for different things, which is not something I thought I would be doing, but hey, broken clocks, right, twice a day, right? If you are blinded by tribalism and partisanship to the point where you cannot see when you're obviously being lied to by your hero, or where you think they do no wrong, something in your brain is broken and you need to reevaluate, because I've had it with this approach to politics.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. And I think this is, I hate to say it this way, but I think when Trump, assumes that his audience is not all that bright and doesn't really care that he lies to them, he's not wrong. It's absurd to me, the support he still has on the right after everything that we've been through with him. It's crazy to me that there are still people who think that this is a good alternative, who trust him, who think that he could do anything he's saying he could do again. I mean, it's the same thing like with Fauci. He came out a couple weeks ago and said, I had no authority to fire him. What? Yes, you did. You had absolute authority to fire him. What are you talking about? But he'll just continue to pivot and dance. And until Americans get smarter and demand better, I think it's going to keep getting worse because people see what they can get away with. I will say, in the past couple of weeks, I've seen some interesting things, more from like leftist TikTokers, but starting to call out the way that they idolize people on their side and sort of what they call like the yes queenization of Democratic politicians, which I like. And they were talking about how, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, as one example, has just been completely revered on the left and just idolized. There's whole t-shirts with like a crown on her head, notorious RGB and all these things, and pointing out that if she had actually stepped down when she should have under Obama so that he could appoint another leftist judge, probably Roe v. Wade wouldn't have been overturned. And so, there's an argument to be made that Ruth Bader Ginsburg actually did a lot to undermine the causes that she supported. And they were going after Dianne Feinstein in that same way and saying that her refusal to step down when she should have is actually stagnating the left and refusing to let other people, younger leaders who are more attuned rise up. And I like that energy. I think people on both sides need to become more aware of this. Politicians are not heroes. They are just average people. And I can tell you that firsthand. I spent a lot of time around many of them. And I know when I first started working in politics, I had this idea that everybody in office was really, really smart, very ambitious. I had to kind of them up on a pedestal. And then when I started lobbying and going and meeting with some of these folks, I was like, wait, these are the representatives? This is who's in politics? They're just people, guys. They are just people. And most of them are not all that much brighter on econ or public policy than the average Joe. They are pretty ambitious. Like, they're usually people who really want to be in power. But that doesn't mean that they're smarter or have these, special skill sets or should be treated like these revolutionaries, because most of them aren't. And instead, they need to be looked at critically. They need to be held to higher standards than we hold the average person. And we need to start to really examine what they're telling you versus what they do. And I think if you do that, your worldview will change significantly. You will find it impossible to have a tribalistic mentality. You will begin to become so disappointed with everybody like I am. And then you'll be able to actually, call a spade, work with people where you can and should, but still hold them accountable when they're not doing the right things. And that's really how you need to be as an engaged citizen. That's how we actually could move the country ahead. The more we stay in this mentality of partisanship and protecting our own while criticizing the other side, it's a no-win situation for everybody. And I really, really hope we can get past it in society and that people will start to wake up to this.